Hey, it's Kevin Thompson. Welcome to this Econ 101 session. Today we're talking about, does it make sense for you to use your 401k to buy a home? It's floating around right now. On the surface, it sounds great. Housing is expensive. Rates are up. People feel locked out. And if your money is sitting in a 401k, it's logical to say, well, it's my money. I want to use it to buy an asset. But on this Econ 101 session, I'm going to teach you something very important. Good intentions don't always have great outcomes. Today, I'll walk you through what this idea actually means, how it compares to the existing rules like first-time homebuyer IRA withdrawals, what the tax consequences really look like, and why, in my opinion, this ends up doing more harm than good. Stay tuned. So let's get into the actual proposal here. The idea behind it, actually, which is being discussed, is that, hey, you know what? We want people to tap their 401ks to purchase a home, potentially without the early withdrawal penalty. The logic is very, very simple. If people can access their retirement savings, they can come up with a down payment more easily, get into home ownership faster, and build wealth through real estate. It sounds very reasonable until you start peeling back how retirement accounts actually work and what happens when you inject more money into a constrained housing market. So how does this compare to the existing rules? We already have a version of this in the tax code, just not inside the 401k. With IRAs, first-time home buyers can withdraw up to $10,000 penalty-free to purchase a primary residence. Important distinction there. Penalty-free does not mean tax-free. If the money comes from a pre-tax IRA, it's still taxable income. In a 401k, the same thing would likely apply. You might avoid a 10% early withdrawal penalty, but you're still creating taxable income in the year you pull the money out. That means higher taxable income, potentially higher marginal tax rates in the year, which means that your money gets taxed at a higher rate, possibly impacting some of your credits, deductions, Medicare premiums, and even more. So the first myth to clear up is this. This is not free money. You're borrowing from your future and paying taxes today. So the perceived pros, I want to be fair, there are some real advantages that people will point to. The pro one, of course, is access to liquidity. For many younger buyers, the biggest hurdle isn't monthly payments. It's coming up with a down payment. Retirement accounts may be the only meaningful pool of capital they have. Pro two, you're purchasing real estate. A home isn't consumption. It's an asset that can appreciate, provide shelter, and stabilize housing costs longer term. Pro three, psychological momentum. Owning a home creates forced savings through equity and often changes financial behavior in positive ways. These are all fair points, but Econ 101 forces us to ask the harder questions. What's the opportunity cost and what happens at a larger scale? So I was quoted in Newsweek about this, and I basically just said that using your retirement account to fund housing signals a policy failure rather than a solution. A 10 to 20% down payment on a starter home could run people north of $60,000, which many first-time home buyers don't have stowed away in their 401ks. The main issue is, if you don't have the money readily available now, maybe we should rethink home ownership. I also said, now we have an asset that we need to pay off over the next 30 years, with the majority of the interest being paid over the first 10. Yes, you can think of this as an asset, but it would be illiquid. You can access some equity, but you're basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. So, robbing from your future, right? I said robbing Peter to pay Paul. When you pull money out of your retirement accounts, you're not just removing today's dollars, you're removing decades of compounded growth. A $50,000 or $60,000 withdrawal at age 30 could easily be $300,000 to $500,000 of future retirement capital, depending on the returns. So you're trading long-term tax advantage compounding for an asset that still requires a 15 to 30-year mortgage at today's much higher interest rates with ongoing taxes, insurance, and maintenance. That's not free wealth creation. That's leverage layered on top of opportunity cost. Part two, housing affordability isn't always about rates. They keep talking about lowering interest rates, get these people in the homes. It's not rates that are the problem. It's the affordability of the home that's the problem. Think about it this way. If a starter home is $300,000 here in Texas, right? $300,000 for a starter home in Texas, and you did a 30-year mortgage at 1%, it may be $800 something. Maybe at 2%, it's almost $1,000. Maybe at 3%, it's $1,100, 4%, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? It's still going to be high. So at 6%, it could be almost $2,000 a month or $1,900 a month. So the spread between a 3% or a 6% at any given time is probably $500 or $600 a month, right? Substantial, but that's not the problem. The problem is, well, now you have a home. Guess what? Your insurance cost is going up every single year. Maintenance cost. There's other costs associated outside of just the mortgage. So you have to understand. I didn't mention taxes. Your escrow payment going up every single year. Those are the real hidden costs. It ain't just the interest rate. So please understand that. And finally, why I'm ultimately opposed to this, because you're increasing demand without necessarily increasing supply. This is Econ 101. If you suddenly give millions of buyers access to more purchasing power through their 401ks, what happens? Demand increases. But supply hasn't changed overnight. We already have homeowners locked into sub 4% mortgages, low housing turnover, limited new construction in many markets, more buyers chasing the same number of homes. Doesn't make anything cheaper. It makes housing more expensive. So this ultimately pushes the risk down to us, the consumers, again. Instead of solving zoning issues, supply constraints, insurance costs, property taxes, construction costs, we're effectively telling individuals to make more personal financial risk, like the pensions are now 401ks. Now we're gonna let you in your 401k. You're shifting policy failure towards the retirement savers. That's not systemic reform. That's financial engineering. I know I sound like an old curmudgeon, but I just know finance. I know how money works. I study this stuff. This is what I do. And everything that comes out, I have to help people understand what it's actually doing, how it's being positioned, and what are the impacts going to be, not maybe, but will be. Because supply and demand is one of those things that's like, hey, it's ironclad. It is what it is. So I wanted today to give you guys some insight on that, because if we open up the 401ks for everyone just to go in, first-time home buyers, quote unquote, go in and buy homes, we're increasing demand on an already limited supply of homes, which is basically going to raise the price on all of the houses and make it even less affordable for those who are looking to get it. Thank you guys for listening to this Econ 101 session. Subscribe to the 9 Innings podcast. I understand the intention behind this idea. I get it. Housing affordability is real. Younger buyers are frustrated. The system feels attacked, absolutely against them. But the solution that they're trying to create right now creates the exact opposite outcome of what it's trying to achieve. It increases the demand, leaves supply constrained, pushes prices higher, pulls retirement security forward, transfers risk back onto the individual. In Econ 101 terms, this is a classic example of policy that ignores second order effects. You don't fix affordability by injecting more money into a limited market. You fix affordability by increasing supply, reducing friction, and addressing structural costs, not by encouraging people to rob their futures to buy today's inflated assets. Sometimes the hardest truth is not every problem has a quick financial solution. And when policy tries to manufacture one, the market usually pushes back. Thank you guys. Subscribe. Stay humble, stay safe, my friends. I'll see you again soon.